Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. So glad to have you with me today as we study Psalm 13, verse 5. Now, Psalm 13 has been a wonderful psalm. It's a psalm of David. The choir master has been working on the music, and it may be a little dirge-like at the beginning, right? It's sad, it's slow, it's mournful. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? Oh yeah, so you can feel him. This is full of feeling, and we've all felt it. How long shall I seek counsel of my soul, grieving every day? Well, of course he's grieving every day. He's asking counsel in the wrong place, isn't he? He shouldn't be asking counsel of his own heart. That's ridiculous. Don't do that, by the way. And the enemy is mentioned. How long shall the enemy exalt over me? So he's upset. And then he makes his prayer there in verse 3, and he says, consider now and hear me. That is, to consider my situation and the prayer I've been praying and all my, everything, all the things. Hear me. And he says, if you don't, I'm going to sleep in death. And then in verse 4, yesterday's verse, we hear the enemy speak. He says, I'm going to finish him off. And they rejoice as, the psalmist is moved and all that. So this is all wonderful and it's instructive for us. But then we come to verse 5. And verse 5 begins with but. And anytime you have an adversative begin a verse, sit up and pay attention. And, this is just so good. Let me read verse 5, and then I will make my comments. Verse 5, but I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. I will sing unto the Lord, because he hath dealt bountifully with me. Okay, I said verse 5, but it's actually verse 5 and 6 in the King James. I don't know why they divided it up that way, but they did. But this is all one, in the Hebrew text, this is all one verse. So, verse 5 and 6, you start with the but, and then something wonderful happens. When I was a boy, I can remember my mother making cornbread in the house. And she used an old clear Pyrex dish, and she would put, 2 tablespoons of bacon fat in that Pyrex dish and put it in the oven. And she'd heat the oven to like 450 degrees or something, and it would melt that bacon fat. And when she pulled it out, that glass Pyrex dish was screaming hot, and the bacon fat was smoking. And then she would set it on the counter, on a trivet or something on the counter, and she would pour her cornbread mixture into that Pyrex dish. And I'll never forget watching her do that as a boy. And the batter would go into the dish and spread out on the bottom and then come up the sides. And as it came up the sides, it was the fat in the dish was already cooking. It was frying it in that dish. And then she would take it and stick it back in the oven. And, back in the oven it went until it was done. And when it would come out, it was, this big pan of cornbread, and she would slice it into triangles. And I remember as a boy enjoying the cornbread because it was tart and it was salty, and you put butter on it, you put anything on it. We ate cornbread a million different ways because it was, it was an easy bread to make, and it was cheap. But I could recall saving the end, the part that was up against the Pyrex, because that was the crunchiest part, because it had fried. The rest of it had baked, but the bottom and the side, especially the side, had fried in that grease. And, it was great. It was wonderful. It was delicious all the way up until you got to that crusty part. And then it was crunchy and salty and it had this cornbread flavor, and then anything that you'd spread on the cornbread was there, the butter or the whatever you put on it. And oh, that was just so good. And it was just this burst of, I don't know, it made the whole mouth come alive when you crunched into that end piece. And that's kind of what we have here in Psalm 13. It's a slice of my mom's cornbread. And you get to verse 5, and you have this wonderful statement of faith. He said, "But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation." You see, we go from feelings to faith. He's been feeling it all through this psalm. And then we come to verse 5 and verse 6, and it's no longer feeling, but now it's faith. Because feeling, if it was all feeling, we wouldn't have verse 5. Because he would just be so down about how the Lord hadn't done something and how the enemy had done something, that verse 5 and verse 6, they just wouldn't be here. But they are here. Because instead of allowing his feelings to dictate his faith, he allows the Word of God to dictate his faith. And faith is not placed in feelings anyway. Faith is in something solid and something wonderful. It's in the Word of God. He says, "But I have trusted." Now, that was a subject back there in Psalm 11 too. Remember that? In Psalm 11, he said, "I've trusted in the Lord." And then someone came up and said, "Why don't you fly away like a bird to your mountain?" And he ends that psalm by saying, "Trust in the Lord." And here it is again. The psalmist, all of his feelings, all of his afflictions, everything is against it. But when he comes to verse 5 and verse 6, he says, "I have trusted in thy mercy." You see, that's more real than what our feelings tell us. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. That's more real than the tears that I want to cry. I will sing unto the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. Well, he hadn't dealt bountifully with him yet. What's he talking about? Well, he's looking forward to deliverance. He's looking forward to salvation. He's looking forward to it because he knows, because of his trust in God's mercy, that salvation and deliverance are on the way. Because it's a matter of faith. It's not a matter of feeling. Friend, don't depend on your feelings. Don't depend on your feelings. Don't go to church hoping that somebody will gin up your feelings. Don't go to church and think, "Oh, I just need to feel better." You're not going to get any feelings at church. What you are going to have at church is faith. Allow your faith to drive your feelings. Allow faith to override your feelings. Because you see, the psalmist here, he had plenty of feelings, but none of them did him any good. And his soulish response was vain and empty. He grieved him. But then he turns to his faith and he says, "I put my trust in your mercy. I don't put my trust in somebody or myself or my own wisdom or how I feel about a thing. I trust in God's mercy. Rejoice in his salvation." Are you rejoicing today? Rejoice in the Lord. And again, I say rejoice. Join me again next time as we look at Psalm 14 here on Daily Dose Radio.